Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Sorry I've taken so long to come up with my next video, but this video is gonna be about what made my pregnancy different and unique, because I really never met someone that went through this, but there are other people that go through this, but I just personally didn't have a friend or like a family member that ever experienced this. So here we go. So basically the story is gonna tell you the kind of the outline about how at 20 weeks my pregnancy kind of had a little shift and changed things around for me and my routines. So I had gone to my 20-week appointment, which was my anatomy scan and where we were gonna find out the sex of the baby. Of course, the sex of the baby was gonna be anonymous for us just because we were planning the whole gender reveal thing. So my mom was there to get the paper to pass it to my sister, who was the planner of the gender reveal. But I'll have a gender reveal story some other time. So the anatomy scan was also the second part of this appointment. And the anatomy scan is basically where you make sure that your baby has, like, you know, the 5 fingers, the toes, well, 10 fingers, but the toes, everything, like everything is going fine and everything is at the stage that it should be. And that everything is fine with you as well. So at the appointment, once the anatomy scan was over, so it's divided in two parts. So they do one over your uterus, so like right over your belly, and then they also do a vaginal ultrasound. At the end of my vaginal ultrasound, the person doing my ultrasound was like, oh, your cervix is short. I had to get a doctor to come in here to like double check the exam. And I was like, what do you mean my cervix is short? Like, I don't understand any of medical language. I don't understand anything. I'm just like, okay, but is the baby okay? Like, am I okay? They're like, yeah. Like, so she gets the doctor and the doctor does the vaginal exam again, like the vaginal ultrasound again. And then they have to do like they call it a manual exam. So basically they check your cervix, the size of your cervix as well. And basically what happened was they said, oh, your cervix is short, meaning that your cervix is opening. Your cervix shouldn't be opening until it's time for you to get into labor. I was only 20 weeks pregnant, so my cervix should not have been opening because it's only halfway through the pregnancy. We had 20 more weeks to go. So I was like, okay, what does this mean? They're like, well, we have to find a way to close it, which is two options. The first one is we try a medication called progesterone, and the second one is we can stitch you up. So we went with the first one because it's the option that they try with anyone that is going through a threatened miscarriage, which was my situation. And a threatened miscarriage basically means if you were bleeding for the first 20 weeks of your pregnancy or going through any abdominal pain or cramps. I never bled throughout the first 20 weeks of my pregnancy. I did one time have a clot in my urine, and I did go to the ER, but they sent me back home and put me on bed rest, but I had never seen blood again. And then in terms of abdominal pain and cramping, I would feel it, but nothing like that would send me to the ER, nothing that felt alarming. So I was like, okay, tell me more about this progesterone, because it seems like it's what I'm gonna have to do to be safe. And basically the progesterone is a hormone that is given to you. You insert it vaginally every night before bed. And what this hormone does is basically helps the uterus not contract. You don't want to feel any contractions until you're ready to get into labor. So this progesterone that you insert vaginally basically is gonna help so that you don't feel those contractions and your cervix could go closing until it is time to open up again. So basically to prevent preterm labor. So the plan was to use this progesterone up until 36 weeks of pregnancy, and from there on, the cervix could start opening for me. And I was like, okay, let's give this a try. And I would ask, when it was time to ask questions, my partner and I did have a list of questions. We always did. I always recommend writing questions before, and even if questions come up for you right then and there, ask them. Do not be afraid. Like, that is what your GYN and doctors are there for, and you should never walk away feeling like, why didn't I ask this question? And questions are very, very important, and I'm gonna tell you why in just a second. So basically we had asked, are there any like what's the second plan, what's the backup plan? The progesterone doesn't work, I had to come back in like 4 days where they're gonna notice already if it's working or not. If the cervix is closing, that means that it's working. If it's not, obviously it's not working. And basically, if that didn't work, the second plan is to stitch you up so that it doesn't open, but it can open back up. That's the only like kind of bad parts to stitching you up, and that's why, fingers crossed, the progesterone works. And basically, we had our list of questions, like I said, and the questions we asked are, what are the restrictions that come with this pill? What are the side effects? So there were no like crazy side effects that came with it. Just that you might have like discharge because you are putting in something vaginally. So the pill is like this orange little pill, so you could have like the discharge that came out was like basically the color of the pill, which makes sense because it was very like gel-like. So that was one. We asked, what are the restrictions? The restrictions were I couldn't carry anything heavier than 10 pounds because I basically couldn't put force, and I couldn't lift. I couldn't walk for too long. I couldn't climb. So basically like avoiding like the train and stairs and things like that. Try to have bed rest as much as possible. Keep my legs elevated. And then the important thing that we did ask, and thankfully we did ask, was there any restrictions to our sexual life? And the answer was yes. We couldn't have sex at all. And the reason why is because that can open up your cervix as well. So it was very important we asked that, because if I was taking the progesterone and we had not asked them, we would not have known, then it wouldn't work. And that was that. So that was basically my experience with it. The moment I was very like shocked. I'm like, what is a threat of miscarriage? What is going on? What is this progesterone? It was so much running through my mind, but at the back of my mind, I was just like, I really, really want this to be a successful pregnancy, and I want my baby to be born, and I want my baby to be safe and come at the time that is right for him. And it was just a very stressful moment because I was thinking like, how is this gonna work with my job? Like, I was a teacher, I stand all day, like it was just so much. So you will come to know later on some of the things that I had to shift around and change in my life to make sure that this progesterone actually worked, to make sure that my baby was safe in there. And yeah, and then I just want to touch on a couple of more things with this whole like progesterone. So like a lot of people, like for me, I didn't know anyone else that had experienced this, and this is why I'm sharing this story, because it could be very stressful when you don't know about something and you're like Googling everything in the world. And to be truthful, Google was helpful to an extent, but what was most helpful was keeping that communication with my GYN and letting them know like what were my worries, and letting them know the updates, and letting them know, okay, like these things are changing in my body, or I do still feel cramps, or whatever the case may be. So I'm really thankful that there was this progesterone, because I did use it up to the 36 weeks, and my baby was born at 38 weeks and 5 days. So that's really good because he went past the full term, which was really good as well, because not everyone uses the progesterone up until the 36 weeks, because sometimes the baby comes before, but in my case everything worked out. So I'm really, really thankful for it. And that's my story about the progesterone and how it basically saved my pregnancy and saved my baby, and kind of like calmed us down as well. Even though it was something that was literally a routine because I had to use it every day, it just became very normal to me. And this hormone really, really helped with not really helped my uterus from not contracting when it wasn't supposed to, and it helped my cervix close. So my cervix actually did close within 2 weeks of using the medication, which was really good. They had actually switched me to the high risk category, so meaning I had to go see my doctor every week so that they could monitor me and make sure that that cervix was closed. And with following all of my restrictions, being on point with the progesterone, and just keeping open communication with my doctor, like I feel like that's why it worked out for me. So yeah, comment below if you have any questions and let me know. And thank you again for watching my YouTube videos, and please subscribe.